We're joined now by On3's Josh Newberg, and it's one of those situations where I was watching what's going on in the NFL and thought, I need to talk to Josh about this because this feels like something that's going to trickle down to the recruiting world. I was watching all the drama between Jonathan Taylor and the Colts. I saw the Jonathan Taylor tweet that said, my back's not hurt. You need better sources. He wants a trade. Josh Jacobs is holding out. All the running backs saying, we need more money. We're not being paid fairly. And it is a big difference. And so I wanted to bring on Josh because covering recruiting, I'm curious if, Josh, you think this is going to trickle down to high school running backs who are about to go to college who may say, you know what, maybe I should play safety or corner or linebacker.
The short answer is yes. It hasn't happened yet because most things that happen in the NFL kind of do take a couple years to trickle down. And I would say right now, you would probably be an incoming freshman in high school that's thinking about this. Because if you're already a recruit and you already have a ranking or you already have established, I'm a running back and you're heading into your junior year, meaning you have 2 more years of high school left, you're probably not, this probably isn't going to impact you. But I do think high school prospects coming up in the system now that are, hitting JV football, well, hey, maybe he's a running back and he's really athletic, but he takes a look at linebacker, maybe corner. Maybe you just play quarterback and keep the ball in your hands until you can really define what you want to be. That's what they do in youth football. The best athlete just plays quarterback.
Yeah, so he gets the ball every play.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of that right now. LSU took Jawan Johnson. He's an offensive weapon. He could be a corner, but he plays quarterback in high school, and LSU took his commitment as an athlete. So I do think that there will be a trickle down, but I don't think we've hit it just yet, Andy.
Yeah, that's what it amazes me. And let's look at some numbers because the franchise tag in the NFL is probably the best way to explain the difference in what players make. And this is what Jonathan Taylor's complaining about, Josh Jacobs. Dalvin Cook doesn't have a job. He could have a job probably, but why put your body through it if they're not going to pay you top dollar, which they're not. So a running back's franchise tag is the average of the top 5 salaries at a position in the NFL. So the running back franchise tag right now is $10 million, which is a lot of money, but that means you're basically one of the best 5 running backs in the league, and it goes way down from there. But if you're a safety, $14.5 million. If you're a linebacker, $20.9 million. If you're a corner, $18.1 million. We're talking significantly higher. And you can scale that down. So basically you can say a corner of the same, level. If you're the 16th best corner, you're going to make 80% more than the 16th best running back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of incredible. And with an incentive like that, the trickle down will happen. The trickle down's not here yet because of the reasons that I said, but without a doubt, with numbers like that, I mean, the running back position, there's still going to be running backs because like you said, a $10 million franchise tag, that's nothing to really shake a stick at. But in the grand scheme of things, playing another position or just the ability to play another position could help. And a lot of times when college coaches recruit, they like to throw the idea of playing multiple positions out there. And we don't really see that all that often. I mean, for every Champ Bailey, everybody gets promised that Champ Bailey role or the Woodson role where you can catch some balls, but you're going to play defense and this and that. And everybody,
Justin Hunter,
it's all over the place.
Yep.
There's very few examples, but I can tell you, almost every 5-star and every 4-star gets told by the coach, yeah, you could come in here and play multiple positions. Well, now maybe if you're a running back, that might happen.
I remember in my first job covering Tennessee, there was a situation where a player's dad got mad and he released a bunch of handwritten notes that Philip Fulmer had sent his son. This player was a running back. And it was like, I promise you 20 to 25 carries a game, blah, 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 which is the sort of thing running backs wanted to hear back then. Can you imagine that now? Because part of the deal with running backs is, hey, don't take too much tread off my tires. I remember talking to Nick Saban about this like 10 years ago. And he said, this is pre-Derrick Henry. He said, basically, we recruit to say, hey, we're not going to overload you. We're going to limit your carries. And he was very far ahead of his time on that.
Yeah. And, it would now be used as a negative recruiting tool. Like if you're picking between Alabama and Florida and the Florida coach says, I'm going to run you 25 times a game, Alabama's going to come back and say, whoa, you're going to run the ball 25 times a game? We're going to give you 13 carries and 5 catches. And now if you're a running back, you're like, I want those 18 touches over the 25 touches. And it's not even a debate anymore.
Can we make it 9 and 9? That's what you're saying. And it's amazing. And the other piece of this that they don't talk about in the NFL, but this is the reason running backs are viewed as expendable. It is the most violent position to play. You are in a car crash every single play. And you can say, well, the linebacker is the guy hitting him. It's not the same thing. You don't have multiple, as a linebacker, you're getting blocked, but you don't have multiple people hitting you from multiple directions at the same time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of these running backs are also, I think the first position they're going to double at is slot receiver.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing it in 7-on-7. In 7-on-7, if you're an elite running back, you're on a 7-on-7 team, but you're playing a wide receiver position. There is no running of the football in 7-on-7. So they're getting a lot of opportunities to catch the football, not just out of the backfield, but as a slot receiver. And I think that position right there, you can run screens, they're basically extended handoffs out of the slot position. You can motion from the slot into the backfield, from the backfield into the slot. And I think that is the most likely kind of duo combo of positions if you're a running back. And I've seen a lot of that take place now.
Well, and Christian McCaffrey is the perfect example of this. Christian McCaffrey could be, and it's weird that we're talking about a 49er because Deebo Samuel's sort of the same thing, but came out as a receiver in college. But Christian McCaffrey could be a slot receiver full time. Mm-hmm. He has that ability. And so I do wonder, if you're going to kind of push toward that, if you're a big time recruit, because that can make you more money down the road.
And I think it's an easier transition than going from a running back in high school or running back in college and then thinking you're just going to play DB or thinking that I'm going to play linebacker now. And unless you did it in youth football, I think it would be really hard to transition from the offensive side of the ball to the defensive side of the ball. But with, like I said, the 7-on-7 circuits, camp circuits, all these things, running backs are catching a lot of passes in the offseason. Yep. Even if they play in a primarily running scheme in high school, they're still catching a lot of balls.
So the wide receiver franchise tag, I'm sure everybody's wondering, $19.7 million. So essentially twice as much as what a running back makes. And so if you have that decision to make, and I think you're right, because we were going down the list of the top class of 2024 guys, and the sizes they tend to be 5'10", 200 pounds. Mm-hmm. That type of athlete, you better be super fast and play corner.
Right.
Or you better be a slot receiver.
Yeah. And I just think the slot position is more natural. You're not going to really go out wide and be a number one wide receiver. But in these offenses, especially in the spread that a lot of teams are playing these days, I think a running back can easily transition. Back in our day, Andy, the Derrick Henry debate, and even before that was the James Wilder debate. And it was always like, is this running back a D end? Is this running back, should he be an outside backer? And I don't think future conversations are going to surround that as much as they are the slot receiving position.
I do wonder if James Wilder wishes now that he hadn't played running back at Florida State, because he might have had a better shot at an NFL career. The Derrick Henry thing's such a weird one because he's a cyborg. He's not a normal person. He's not a normal running back. But Will Muschamp got crushed when he was Florida's coach because he suggested to Derrick Henry, we could have you rushing the passer. He might have made him more money in the long run, except Derrick Henry, to me, is like the one running back you can give a second contract or a third contract to, because again, he's a cyborg. Nobody else is like that.
No, and like everybody likes to poo-poo on all the people that said maybe Derrick Henry should switch positions, but for every Derrick Henry, there's a James Wilder, and James Wilder was a great running back, a 5-star coming out of Plant High School, chose Florida State over Georgia on signing day. But James Wilder really never, he only had a college career, and he was kind of a B back in that Florida State system when he was there. Now, if he did play outside linebacker, if he did play DN, would he have extended his career longer into the pros? I don't know.
Now, I think of a guy he played alongside who sort of went the other way. Carlos Williams was a safety, but he wasn't good enough to start at safety on that team that was loaded with NFL talent. But he was a good athlete, so they moved him to running back, and it gave him a little better chance. But I think
he made it to the NFL. He would have
Yes.
never made it to the NFL. Talking to Jeremy Pruitt, who was coordinating that defense that year, he just couldn't see it. He couldn't pick up on what was coming at him fast enough, and he just wasn't going to be a safety. But he was just an athletic freak, and he moves to running back, and he was like, see the hole, hit the hole. I mean, he was great on kickoff returns. He was great as a running back, and he actually had an NFL career with the Buffalo Bills. Now, some things set him back, but he was on pace to maybe be rookie of the year.
Well, and remember Jarrett Jack at UCLA when they just put him in at running back, and we're like, oh, here you go, 150 yards. But he knew where his bread was buttered come draft time. He's like, no, I'm a linebacker. Let's not play
He had some
around.
foresight. I mean, now he would have made a couple $10 million more than he would have made at running back.
Well, and here's the thing. It's so counterintuitive because, we think about when you're a kid, when you're in middle school, when you're in high school, you get to be the guy that scores the touchdowns. That's who everybody wants. And if you play fantasy, running backs are so important. But then you see the economics of it. And I just imagine, and I'm sure you're seeing this now, if you're a coach at a Mater Dei in California, St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida, IMG Academy, that sort of thing, you're advising people, hey, there's more money in slot receiver if you're that body type, corner if you're that body type, if you're a bigger back, outside linebacker. I would imagine that we're going to see that over the next few years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially at the powerhouses that you talked about, because really not every high school should be worried about this, right? But a Mater Dei or an IMG is essentially like a prep school, getting you ready for college football. And if that's something that's on the table, if you're a back that maybe was a corner or maybe that can catch the ball really well, it might be advantageous for these high school coaches to maybe nudge somebody in that position or just give them extra reps at another position. He could still be your starting running back, but get reps at corner.
Well, in these non-powerhouse high schools, they're probably playing both ways in high school anyway.
Well, that's a good point.
So there's a situation where, okay, he may be a better back, but if he looks like a corner, I go back to something, and it's before all the scandal stuff. Art Briles said this to me, and I thought it was very interesting. He said, I don't understand why all these 6'1" receivers play receiver in high school. Why don't they just ask their coaches to play corner? Because a 6'1" corner makes a lot of money, and a 6'1" receiver usually doesn't.
But Andy, they don't score the touchdowns.
I know. Well, I hate to say it, youngsters, you may have to look at franchise tags before you decide where you want to play. I know that sounds weird, but yeah, Josh, I'm fascinated about this. I'm so glad we got to talk about this because it's one of those things that as soon as I saw it popping on the NFL news, I was like, I bet there's some smart recruits right now that are going, I'm an athlete, but I might cross this position off.
Yeah, and they all want to play other positions. Coaches always offer them that in recruitment, so we'll see if it happens, but I do think the trickle down will happen. It just hasn't occurred yet at the high school football level.
Cannot wait for the logjam at slot receiver. Let's go.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts. I do think, though, that there's been so many athletes that can do so much now with the spread because they've been implemented into these offenses. Like, it took a couple years for all the high schools to run spread, and now all the high schools are running spread offense. But it took 3 to 4 years for everybody to kind of come along and say, oh, yeah, this is the future. I think it'll be very similar here with this.
I just can't wait for this specialty fullback training. It's going to basically, there's going to be like 4 NFL coaches that still need fullbacks, and there'll be 4 colleges that have fullbacks. And the fullback recruiting complex will basically look like long snappers, where there'll be like 2 guys who train them and rate them.
I was going to say the fullback position is looking very much like the long snapper position. It comes down to like, hey, at least once every 2 to 3 years, a team's going to take one and give them a scholarship for it.
Well, years ago, if you were Nebraska's fullback, your biggest star on campus. This is fascinating, Josh. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, Andy. Thanks for having me on.